Broncos country. Are the Denver Broncos the best 0-2 team in the Super Bowl era? Are the Denver Broncos only 2 plays away from actually being 2-0? Or are these things that Broncos country tells ourselves so that we can get to sleep at night, trying to think this isn't another version of the past 6 years? We discuss that and more on tonight's episode of Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS, brought to you by the Orange Weekly Broadcast Network. Now let's introduce the cast! First up, it's Kevdan!
Beep, boop, boop, beep.
Alright, next up, it's David!
We talked about this before the show, and I said I wasn't going to do this bit.
So grab your bourbon, let's talk Broncos on today's episode of Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS, brought to you by the Orange Weekly Broadcast Network.
Orange Weekly. Fans, brews, and Broncos news. Broncos country, what's going on? My name is Kevdan. Welcome to another edition of Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS. We are drinking probably a little heavier than normal tonight because, well, no reason in particular. Make sure you're drinking responsibly, but hit us up in the chat. Post your comments, post your questions. We want to hear what you guys have to say following the Broncos loss there. If we could stop at halftime, but the game didn't stop at halftime, even though the players did. Anyway, make sure you guys stick around throughout the entirety of the show. You're not going to want to miss it at the end here. David has the perfect secret on how to get all those tear stains out of your jerseys, Bronco country. And I know that I need that. So make sure you stick around to get that, to get ready for next week's game. Guys, I'm glad you're here. We got Jared and David. New vocabulary came out this week in Webster's dictionary. We always say Chargers are going to Charger, and they did. Raiders are going to Raider, and they did. Broncos Broncoed. New verbiage. So there it is. Guys, what do you think? 0-2.
I haven't been on this much of an emotional roller coaster ride since the Tim Tebow days of the Denver Broncos. I just reversed. It was just reversed. And now instead of being happy for the rest of the week, I get to be sad. And I get to be happy for that very faint 2 quarters of football and then sad for the rest of the week. And then we're back at it again. It's an emotional roller coaster and I'm not ready. I don't think I'm tall enough to ride this ride.
Fair. No,
You're
it's
tall.
fair.
David,
tall,
are
man.
you tall enough?
I'm tall.
I'm
tall. It's a question of emotional fortitude for me right now. It was like that when you saw Brandon Johnson come out of that scrum with that miracle Hail Mary touchdown, it felt like there wasn't a chance, right? You felt No. You didn't feel like there was any actual chance that 2-point conversion was going to be a thing. And then it wasn't. And reality came back to you and it still hurt, even though you didn't let it into your heart, it hurt. And right. So if that's what it's going to be, if it's just going to be this team losing, if the Broncos point differential is -10 and they're 5-12 this year, I'm just going to die.
Well, let's not go there. We're only 2 weeks into the season. I know everybody has the panic button firmly in their hand and ready to press it. We got Miami on the road next, and we will talk about that game and our thoughts on that game later on in the show. But first, who we got in the comments up over here? Facebook user, perfect example for what I want to talk about first. Facebook user, thank you for the comment. Appreciate that. Guys, if you want to make sure that your name shows up and that your comment actually does go through, Facebook is great and all, but we need you to go over to our YouTube page. YouTube, 100% of the time, your name shows up, at least your username, and your comment shows up. So I'm going to pull up the YouTube link here in a minute, but if you want to make sure that we know who you are and we can give you a mile-high salute properly, head on over to our YouTube page. But let's start with the elephant in the room, guys. And we were talking about this before the show. if you had told me before the start of the season, we're going to be 2 weeks in, we're going to be talking about how horrendous our offense is, I would have laughed at you. So here we are with a lot of injuries on defense. Frank Clark, I'm not sure. I think they probably have given some sort of return, probably a couple of weeks.
I saw 2 weeks last I saw he's going to be out for 2. So far they haven't put him on the IR, but I mean, they didn't put Dulcich on the IR till Saturday or Friday of this last week. So it's really up to what they're going to see in the as he gets checked out more, maybe a second opinion from the doctors. But right now I heard it's at least 2 weeks, so we'll see.
Okay. But what do you guys think, Jared? Start with you, man. Like, between is it the injuries on defense that's killing us, or is it Vance Joseph's system? And let's go back really quickly to the conversations we've had for people who maybe have missed the show or first-time viewers, which, by the way, if you're first time, welcome to the show. Over the offseason, and even when Vance Joseph was head coach, what did we hear from the players all the time? He's a player's coach. We love him. He makes us want to play harder for him. That's not materializing on the field at all. Maybe in the first half it did, but definitely not in the second half. So, Jared, over to you, man. What do you think, dude?
I don't know what to think, and here's why. I first of all, defense isn't my fortitude. I'm not huge on calling out the defensive players and schemes. The schemes seem to be okay, and again, I think my biggest concern is the difference between first half and second half, because that's really what happens. And ultimately, like, if you're playing well, like we had how many? 4 sacks in the first half. We were pressuring 4 sacks in the first half. I think we ended with 5, right? Total.
F4 was our total.
Yeah, so I don't know how many. 4 sacks in the first. So something happened between the first half and the second half. We were getting to the quarterback. We were doing our things. They made halftime adjustments somehow. They figured out a way to make halftime adjustments. Or the options are either they made halftime adjustments or the players just stopped working as hard in the second half, like kind of took it off. And I don't want to think that that's the case, right? You never want to think that it's the players just not working as hard in the second half, but there is something there. And I cannot put a finger on it. Like, I really couldn't, even watch the game back. I couldn't really figure out what it was that they're playing almost, it seemed like the same scheme, and the players just couldn't get to the positions they needed to. I'm more disappointed that we let Sam Howell throw all over 35 points, guys, all over us. It was bad. It
was rough. And there's kind of breakdowns everywhere to me, except kind of linebacker, except sometimes linebacker too, because the linebackers are very aggressive on this defense. They over pursue sometimes, and it gets them into trouble, especially in the run game. The defense is still blitz heavy, and I think that is Vance Joseph's response to the fact that right now, other than DJ Jones, you don't have really any dudes up front. Zach Allen was supposed to be that guy, and he hasn't been so far. You have then Matt Henningsen and Jonathan Harris as your other 2 primary guys rotating in there, along with heavy doses of Mike Purcell in there, who I love Mike Purcell to death, but he is not an impact defensive lineman anymore. At best, he plays an average defensive lineman, and he's a guy that you really want to be rotating in more than relying on for heavy snaps. And it's just not happening right now up front. And then I mean, that's where I think the breakdowns start, because that's where, that affects coverage, obviously. But, I don't want to let Damari Mathis and, Kareem Jackson off the hook, because Kareem Jackson makes another silly hit. That's just a ridiculous play. I know you're trying to get the ball out in the end zone. I know you're trying to make a big hit and stop a touchdown, but it's not going to happen for you the way you want. You're going to get flagged. You deserve to get ejected. You're lucky not to get suspended. And, now you've left the team in a situation where they only dressed 3 safeties to begin the day. So you've got to work that out. It was a breakdown from back to front, and I think everybody's got blood on their hands as far as this one, Kev.
Yeah. I mean, not for nothing. Let's not leave it out. Like, okay, so for the first half, right? Randy Gregory, Jonathan Cooper, they were doing okay, but what happened to them in the second half? Like, let's not forget about our edge rushers. If we can't get pressure, that's why I think they've been blitzing so much. They feel like they can't get pressure from the guys up front. Well, and we can't leave those edge rushers out of that.
And Washington ran the ball really effectively, especially in the second half. And I think it really took their ability to pin their ears back and go after the passer a little bit away. But like you were saying, it's kind of everybody dropped the ball, especially in that second half a little bit. Now, what do you guys think about? Let's do. I know I'm trying to be optimistic, and it's going to be about the offense, but we can pivot to that in a minute. What about the defense? Is there anything that makes you feel optimistic at all about the defense, guys?
I mean, the secondary.
Pat Surtain is the only person I could still sit here and say, I still trust this guy to do whatever he can. Good. And I think he only. I didn't look at I can pull him up here in a minute, but I believe Pat Surtain is still the one guy on this defense that we can have full faith in. It's just the rest. Like, everybody's got to catch up, and I don't know what that means. I don't know. Everyone wants to. Same thing as last year, right? And this is going to be the funny part at the end of this year. Everyone blamed Hackett for our team sucking. And we'll get to the offense in a minute. Now, you guys know I have a lot to say on the offensive side. But on the defensive side, everyone wants to blame the coach immediately. It can't be the players. On paper, these players look great. On the field, they didn't. And it wasn't the coaching scheme that did it. It was so I don't want to blame Vance, but you're right. Everybody has blood on their hands. There's a part on Vance's hands, but there's a part on the players' hands that we really got to say, like, what happened in that second half? That's really what it comes down to. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I will say,
go for it.
I'll at least say they did get the 4 sacks and 8 quarterback hits a week before, and the week after they got no pressure. And granted, Sam Howell holds the ball longer than basically any quarterback in the NFL besides Justin Fields, but they got home. And a couple of the sacks, at least, were guys winning on their pass rushes and not just because Sam Howell was holding the ball. So there's at least that to be thankful for, and it's something to build on. In the first half. So this time, just do it over the whole game, and then we'll see what happens, right?
I mean, we're asking for however many past years, defense has been good, offense has been struggling. It's like, okay, here we go. We just need something in place, get the offense going, keep the defense kind of intact as much as you can, keep that train rolling. That was the intent behind everything that we heard from, Sean Payton, everything during the offseason. And here we are in the complete opposite situation where, wow, the defense or the offense put up 33 points. Like, wow, they did a good job. Like, it wasn't great by any means. There was still a lot to clean up. They still themselves kind of took, that downhill effect in the second half, but they got it going, right? But this defense just can't close it out. And, good teams find a way to win even when they don't deserve to, They didn't deserve to win, but they couldn't find a difference. And I think, just looking at, I know college football is not NFL football, but you look at the culture behind the teams, there's a difference there between CU and the Broncos, right? That's that culture stuff. So I don't know. It's going to take a while still for that to incorporate itself into the team, I think.
I'd say if we're using that terminology, you didn't even have to turn the channel or watch a different game. Look at the Commanders.
Yeah.
They had no business being in that game. They had no business winning that game. And what do? They find a way to win. And we kind of let it happen. Like, it just, that's what's so disappointing.
Ron, because ran us right over.
I literally got a text from a buddy of mine who's a Commanders fan, and it was the meme of the Simpsons meme of, like, stop, he's already dead, after we scored the 3rd touchdown in the first quarter. Right. And I was like, man, this is the most proud I've been. Maybe I spoke too soon. This is the most proud I've been of the Broncos in 6 years.
Everybody was feeling it.
And it just kind of really went downhill fast. And of course, after the game, he gives me like, "Don't call it a comeback." Like, fuck that asshole. So,
well, dude, I'll sit I do not leave my seat until the game is over, right? Because you never know. And so half the stadium's gone. They make that Hail Mary. Holy crap! Come back. Like, we're gonna. It's like everyone was just certain in that moment. Like, we just made that happen. They're gonna find a way to make the 2-point conversion happen, right? And everyone just jaw hit the floor, right? It was rough. So, man, it just I don't know what to say about this team other than there's good things to talk about, and we can transition to offense now if you guys are ready. But before we do, I guess any other thoughts with defense, and just what does this team need to learn from this last week to be able to, close out a game and put out a good performance this next week? David, start with you, man.
Be faster.
Nah.
Because Tyreek Hill's coming. So
yes, he is.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about. Okay, we'll talk about the next game here in about 15 minutes. I've talked about our offense, but
yeah. I mean, Sean Payton said it. We have tougher offenses coming our way. They recognize it. So what are they going to do about it?
Yeah. True.
The only thing I'll say, last thing before we move over to the offense, last thing I will say, it almost seemed like our whole defense was anchored around Kareem Jackson. Like the second Kareem, everybody said that it was after the Russell Wilson fumble. That touchdown was rough, but it seemed like everything was anchored on Kareem Jackson. So as soon as we had to do a player shift to personnel, like everything, just like our whole scheme, like just felt like they were finding holes everywhere. It was like, I don't know. I'm just making assumptions here, but I'm trying to think of a reason why. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, and Shane here, we saw the same kind of stuff when Vance Joseph was head coach. A good first half team, not able to make second half adjustments, whatever those might be or look like, and just looking flat in the second half. So, I mean, trend with him, and I think the question is really starting to revolve around it. Not so much was Vance Joseph the right choice, but how much longer does he have in Denver? And is Sean Payton going to allow this to ride out the whole season? People are calling for him to be fired right now. Guys, it's not going to happen. We're 2 weeks into the season, right? But man, we're talking about a guy who set a high expectation for this team. And we're not even close to that right now.
You're right. Let me have a take about Rex Ryan, because it's been on my social medias too much right now.
Yes.
I think everybody is excited about Rex Ryan because he may be the potential defensive coordinator next year if the Vance Joseph thing doesn't work out this year. Yep. Everybody knows he interviewed this year, didn't get the job. Everybody knows Sean Payton and he are really close. Let me say this about that. I think we are all in a place where Rex Ryan looks really good because everybody but Vance Joseph looks really good right now, because Vance Joseph is the one taking the blame for this performance. I'm going to just slow my roll. I know Sean Payton was on TV last year, and so I'm about to say the same thing about Rex Ryan, which is that you can't just pluck a guy off TV and expect him to be a good coach again. But it's a double standard, and I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. Let's just slow down on the everybody would be better than Vance Joseph, and we should have got Rex Ryan train instead. Who knows yet? It's a long season. Yep. Let's find out.
Yep.
It's the cheerleader effect.
Yeah. Yep. You just start. It's the popular thing to say.
Yep.
And so you say it, but it doesn't make sense for, to be honest, it doesn't feel like we're only 2 weeks into the season.
No. And like if he is our defensive coordinator a year from now and the defense looks really good after 2 games, I'll have to eat these words. But until then, let's just, all right, let's.
Yeah. It's just like Anthony says here. Give it time. Give it time, guys.
Give it time.
It's, I don't want to say that this is the worst case scenario for the team. Okay. In terms of the record, obviously it is. You can't get any worse than 0-2. But in terms of the score, I mean, our point differential between 3 games is -3.
Correct.
So so Jared, so do the math. If we lost the first game by 1 point and the second game by 2 points, what could we, expect in the third game? Is there a pattern here, or am I just looking too deep into things?
I have no idea how this thing works. But I do know that we're not mathematically eliminated.
No, but
2 weeks in, and we are not. Yes,
we are not. But I think this transitions me to a conversation that we were having before the show, right? Which is that there are outcomes of this season, guys, that are successful, and we can look back on the season and say the Broncos had a successful year that don't end in a playoff appearance. And I know Sean Payton set that bar for the team boldly before the season started, and just looking at the way the team looks right now, it's just going to take more time than we wanted it to. It's going to take more time than is required for a team that wants to go from what it was last year to a playoff team this year, if that makes sense. They're not the CU Buffs right now. They are a team who is returning essentially the same roster and trying to, some improvement, and trying to just kind of coach their way to a better record right now. And it's just going to be a while.
It's growing pains.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I think they'll win. Yeah, I'm sorry, Kev. I think they'll win probably some games at the end of the year that maybe they shouldn't. And you'll look back on those games and say, man, if they had just pulled that together at the beginning of the year. Yeah. But right now you're seeing them lose games that I don't think they should be losing. And I think it's going to swing the other way, but it's probably just not going to be in time for them to be a playoff team this year.
No, and actually perfect, comment here, again, looking back historically, Sean Payton, not great in September, right?
Yeah.
Look at the Chiefs. By no means am I saying that we are we are on the same level as the Chiefs. Okay. No. Just let me say that. But again, look, the past few years, they started off, slow, and they always get things going, right? So it's not the end of the world. No,
I'd say they started off slow again. They're 1-1. They have scored 37
not have lost
points.
To the Lions at home.
Right. But they've scored fewer points than the Broncos have this season in 2 games.
Yeah.
So,
it's like, give these guys time. And that's why we're not going to see any major, don't call for coaching changes and stuff like that's just not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So it's interesting though, to see, like you were talking about the Rex Ryan stuff for sure. But you're right. And another thing I was saying before the show was we're going to have to really, I think at the end of the year, break this down into 2 halves of the season. First half, there's going to be, sorry guys, there's going to be a lot more growing pains. Okay. Just throwing that out there. Get ready for it. Okay. There's some more suck coming down the pipe, right?
This is a pregame podcast preview, but this week could be ugly. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, you're good. But, Sean Payton is a guy that we know can build a team. He's done it before multiple times. Okay. This is the guy that you give him time, you give him what he needs, and he can build a team that is going to be successful. Okay. It's not Hackett. It's not Vance Joseph. It's not Vic Fangio, who had nothing to back up their credentials. Right. So let's be careful with this. And you're right. At the end of the year, say, hey, if we take what we did in the second half of the year and we pick up what we left off, man, the second year is going to be looking pretty good. That's what I'm hoping to see. And more of the improvements week to week to get us there. Jared, what do you think?
We talk about the offense?
Yes, I think it's time to talk about the offense.
Yeah, we can transition to that.
Okay.
So start us off. Offense, what do you think?
David is going to be good cop, and I'm going to be bad cop, because I just assume that David is very positive about this offense. Yeah, okay, cool. We're on the same page. I don't think the offense is completely off the hook. I think that people want them to be off the hook because on paper we put up 33 points, but in reality we put up 27.
Tell it to him, Jared. Tell it to him.
And we put up 27 points and scored nothing but 2 field goals in the second half, where we scored 3 touchdowns in the first. So something happened there. We couldn't execute plays. We couldn't figure it out. And there was no excuse on the offensive side. There was no Kareem Jackson's not playing anymore. There was no injuries to the offensive side. There was no reason to not be as successful in the first half as we were in the second half. And it looks like the decision-making and where we were going. Yeah, I mean, that's true. But it looks like where we were going in the decision-making was just not there. It was back to the old, this is why I got so depressed in the second half of that game. It was like, why does it feel like I'm watching the same game from last year? Like, I'm so sick and tired of these 3 and outs and drive down a little bit, maybe kick a field goal. Luckily, Will Lutz actually made all of his field goals. So good on him. Thank God for that. But why is it that for some reason in the second half, we're kicking 2 field goals, 1 in each quarter, and like, let's be honest, that last field goal was because we wanted to try to kick a field goal and get an onside kick, and like, come on, like, I just don't understand. I don't understand. Yeah. And we can't let him off the hook, and I don't know if it's Russ's fault. And again, you look at Russ's numbers and his QBR, and all these people are going to throw out these stats. I love it, David. Man, David, we're on the same side on this time, and I love it. Everyone's going to throw out these stats. We're going to throw out these stats about, look at his QBR. He's better than all these other quarterbacks. Like, also, they're taking an advantage that Hail Mary, that thank God Johnson got down with that ball. But other than that, take his first half, probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league this week. Take the second half, probably the worst quarterback in the league this week. Yep. Like, why are we talking about this? Anyways, I'm done. Go, David.
No, you're okay. I love it because you made so many good points, especially about that 27 points, not 33, because that's what you should give him. That Hail Mary was a 1 in a million chance. You'll never see a play like that in your lifetime again as a Broncos fan. I love you. I'm sorry, but those are the truths.
I'm still staying in my seat till the end of the game because you never know.
Amen.
Never know.
Now, here's where I come in with the optimism, and maybe Jared won't like it, but here's the point I'm going to make anyway. When was the last time the Broncos looked as bad as they did in the second half of a game and still could claim legitimately having scored 27 points?
Again, they didn't. They scored 6.
Well, no. I mean, just in the over the course of the entire game.
Right.
When the
Broncos
offense,
give that to you.
Yeah, and when the Broncos offense usually looks that bad for any stretch of a game, they end up scoring 12, 14, and
field goal.
Right. Field goal, missed field goal. Yeah. So I at least will give this to Broncos country. You wanted to see the deep ball last week in the offense, and they gave it to you. And it looked sustainable. And it looked like the old Russell Wilson ripping the most ridiculous rainbow shots you've ever seen down the field and making it look easy. For a half.
Right.
And it just tells me that it's going to be, like we've been saying, more growing pains ahead. More of Russell Wilson trying to adapt his game to the Sean Payton offense and play within a system that he's not really comfortable with, but knowing that last season he was terrible. And I fully believe Russell Wilson knows, as well as anybody, that last season was unacceptable from his own standpoint and from a neutral standpoint. And he wants, I think, to do better, and he wants Sean Payton to help him be better. And it's just going to be a longer process than one off season. That's all.
No. So I'll say this one more thing about the offense. And I think that on the defensive side, I like to say, like, there's a lot to go around. Everyone's trying to call for Vance Joseph's head, and I don't like it. Normally, I back up the offensive the coordinators. I back them up. And on this one, I want to say there's kind of a heavy blame to go on to Sean Payton, and nobody wants to do it because he's new and he's building a culture and all the good things, right? We finally scored 21 points. But at some point, your offensive coordinator, why are we playing safe at the beginning of the third quarter? Like, why are we trying to waste time at the beginning and middle of the third quarter? Why are we trying to call the easy plays and trying to hold the ball? And it came back to bite us in the butt.
And why is it taking on the critical drive in the fourth quarter where you need to score points quickly?
Bring that up.
Why is it taking so long to get your calls into your quarterback? And why is that issue cropping up from last year? Why is it happening at that point in the game specifically when you needed to make?
We wasted so much time.
You had 6 minutes left. Yeah, you had 6 minutes left, and you used 4 minutes of that time on a field goal drive.
A minute 48 when we finally got the ball back.
Yeah. No, it's so absolutely right. And
I don't understand.
Does fall on Payton for sure, Jared.
We talk about mile high. I mean, stadium is mile high. I mean, there's everything about air, altitude sickness, blah, 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 blah. How is it that this is the fourth head coach in a row? And I get this is just his second game. Okay. But this is an experienced head coach who has played in Denver before on the other sideline. When you're in that situation, how do you not have a hurry up package ready to go? Because it's the second game of the season. It was a hot game. We were in white. We had the advantage there too. We were in the shade longer. The other sideline, they were still in the shade or in the sun. Okay. We had those advantages. Why are we not hurrying up? Why are we not? They're already tired. Why are we not taking that altitude to our advantage, man? But we're just go out there. We're huddling. We're taking 30 seconds off the play clock between every play. And it's like, why do we not have something already figured out for this situation, right? It's not a 2 minutes drill, but, we got to go, guys. It kind of
is.
No, it really is. It really is.
Absolutely.
Down two scores with over 4 minutes left. Like, it's 2 minute drills. It's a 2 minute drill.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Especially with your defense playing the way it is.
Why is it so hard to and I'm not saying ball on the line, snap it, but hey, hurry up, it's going to be one of these 3 calls, get ready for it or whatever the case is, but get to the line. Let's go. Yeah. So that's one of my biggest critiques is it's just so frustrating that we have this advantage that we plaster everywhere, but we just don't seem to really utilize it. It just drives me bananas.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink now.
Have a drink.
So, is Russell Wilson dead? Let's continue that because I bring it up because there was a comment earlier.
Bring up Jerry's comment. I need to respond to this personally.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I was going to go with that. So, Jerry, interesting. Vance Joseph and Russell Wilson need to go. David, what do you think, man?
Coming under fire. Listen, Jerry, you're a valued member of Team Puffball. I appreciate you. I respect you. You've come on this show for a long time. You've been watching us for a lot of years. I love having you. But I'm going to push back on you a little bit here. And I said this before the show. Jared and Kev can back me up right now. If Russell Wilson is playing this way all season, I would be thrilled to have him as the Denver Broncos starting quarterback next season. Now, I will say this about that. Yeah, he had 2 turnovers in this game, and at one of them, all right, the fumble was a little fluky. You just got to hold on to the ball there. But the interception, that's on you, pal. Especially on you because you tried to throw to the ball to the defenders 2 plays in a row before that happened. So, I don't know what you were seeing because you fixed it later. When we were trying to come back, you were kind of old Russ again in that very end game scenario there. But that fourth quarter, end of third quarter, early fourth quarter, I don't know what was happening, and that's on you. Either way, Russ has been overall this year decisive, quick to throw the ball when the play calls for him to be quick to throw the ball, and really accurate on the deep shots that he's been able to take. And there were a couple in those first game that weren't caught, and I don't think they were on him. Go ahead, Kev.
Who leads the league in passes or completions for over 40 yards?
Who is it, Kev?
Russell Wilson with 3. It's only 3, but he leads the league.
I swear to God, do not tell me they're counting that Hail Mary.
They are. They are. Yeah, they are.
He does not lead the league. And anyways, tag me in, David. Ooh, tag me in.
Jared.
Tag me in. Okay. All right. So also agree with David. Man, I love that we're on the same page this week. It's great.
Beautiful
we're
thing.
here.
This is awkward. I don't like it. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I don't know what side to take.
And remember, I was the biggest critic of Russ last year. And not saying that he's terrible or all this other stuff. Remember, we're Orange Weekly. We do not say someone's terrible because they're getting paid a lot more money while we're sitting on the couch and watching him. So I'm not going to say he's terrible. But I was a very big critic about what he was doing with our offense and how he could not make decisions and do all things. We are seeing that difference this year. We absolutely are. Now, all these Twitter statisticians, and again, I'm a data guy. I'm a data nerd by trade, for the record. So I get the data, but sometimes the data can be misleading. If you're looking at the data and be like, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league based on this data. He has the most completions over 40 yards. Bullshit, Kevin. It's just not true. It's not. He's not one of the greatest guys. He's not one of the greatest. Don't give me another stat that's wrong.
Was it 5,000 passing yards and
4,000 rushing yards?
4,000 rushing yards,
yeah.
Because of his 80 yards rushes. No, again, that's 99% of that work was done in Seattle. But what I'm saying is I'm not going to sit here. I'm probably not on David's side. I don't know if this is the Russ that we want next year, right? But it's the Russ that, as if he gets better from this, if we get those 3 or 4 drives that he just played just awful. Let's be honest, there was 3 or 4 drives that were Russ, man. That's the whole second half of us watching it, being are we watching last year's team here? If he can get rid of those drives and do more of the stuff he did, he was on fire in the first half. And I think part of it, and everybody yell at me for this, he lost a lot of confidence after the fumble, followed by the interception. Yeah. Once he lost that confidence, he was done. He was absolutely done. And his mentality was not there. He was not in the game. He was not making the right decisions. And until the very end, and again, if we're giving him credit for the Hail Mary, he drove the ball to get that field goal at the end. I'll give him that. Yeah. But he didn't take a deep shot after that.
Yeah.
After the interception, he didn't take any deep shots. He didn't take anything that was contested even, except for the 2-point conversion, which was contested.
Very safe.
Yes. Now let me put up Jerry's first comment of the 2 that he just made. And you're right. Judy was more open more than once, and Russ missed him. And on the 2-point conversion was one play. There were other plays that this happened in the game. Now. Go, Jared.
Just real quick on the 2-point conversion, he was never going to see Jerry Jeudy.
That's true. Jerry Jeudy was probably his fourth read on that play.
He got flushed to the right by the rush. There's no way he's seeing the left. Mm-hmm. He can't. He's absolutely not throwing crossbody across the end zone.
Not when his left tackle got pushed into his lunchbox like that.
And not for nothing, if you look at the picture, again, data can be misleading. If you look at the picture, they cut out just perfectly the DB that was actually right behind him and caught up to him right after. If you watch the actual replay, there was a DB there, and if he would have crossbody through that, guaranteed picked off. So he wasn't as wide open as everybody says he is.
Fair.
I think he made the right call throwing it to a one-on-one on Cortland Sutton.
I agree.
Because that's the guy that you want
Especially
to be one-on-one
when you see your guy getting contacted in the end zone, which I'm sorry, Cortland Sutton was pass interference. We can debate it with the NFL office all week, but that was pass interference. And if you see your guy getting interfered with, you throw the ball at him to draw attention to it as any way you can. So I don't necessarily fault Russ on that play. Either way, even if he did miss Jeudy on a couple of plays, and I think he did over the course of the game, that's just what we were talking about. It's just those growing pains and him trying to meld himself into a Sean Payton system. And if that's still happening in week 12, then Jerry, I'm going to get on the same page with you, because I'll agree with you then. But right now, I think it's just the two of them trying to bring what they do together.
And we've seen him improve from the preseason.
Yes.
Like there's a week-to-week improvement, right?
Yes.
It's nowhere close to where we can sit down and have a very serious conversation about beating the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. We're in the realm of possibilities, but we're not, going to be like, oh yeah, this is, going to be a very close one-possession game or whatever. But you're right. Like let's continue to see if he improves, and if he plateaus and gets stuck there, then it'll be really interesting to see what Payton does, because again, this is an aggressive guy, and he's not the type of guy that's going to sit around on things if things just aren't getting better, there'll be a time to make changes. Maybe that time is when the season's over, maybe before the season's over, right? Before a trade deadline or something. But, Payton's going to make the right moves. And look, the other thing that we haven't really talked about and people have mentioned, but I think is also to, keep in mind, we've talked about how Russell knows that this is kind of like he's in the hot seat, right? His reputation is on the line this year. We got rid of Hackett. At what point do we start looking at George Payton saying, hey, we've had a few years. New ownership is here. New ownership owes nothing to you. They didn't hire you,
And Jared's got a quizzical look. I'm inclined to say the time is now.
Right. Well, that's the question is like, when do you start saying, dude, like, you've traded away first round picks for Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. These things aren't working out. We need to get the ball rolling sooner rather than later. We're going to bring in our guy. So it's just something to keep in mind as we watch how the season progresses. This is all early conversation stuff, but these are the questions that you want to ask.
And Jared, I see you skeptical. I want to give you a chance to respond to what both of us say, because I'm kind of getting towards the point where I'm going to lay some of this blame on George Payton, to be honest with you. Look at the state of this roster and look at what you've done with the roster in 3 years. And you entrusted the future of your pass rush to Randy Gregory by giving him a 5-year contract when his, the results when he was on the field were good, but he just never played. He was just never in for a full season. And you gave a guy like that a 5-year deal. And you've then given the rest of it to guys like Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper, guys who have, played well for you in spurts, but certainly nothing that makes you go, this would be a star on another team. And that's what I really look at this roster and say, what have you done for us, George Payton, besides Patrick Surtain? Who are the players on this roster that you look at and say, this guy would be a top 5 starter on another team, or a top 10 starter at his position on another team? And I just don't see it right now. So, is it all George Payton's fault? No, you take shots, you get lucky. You gambled on Russell Wilson for a franchise that hasn't had a quarterback since Peyton Manning retired. And that's an understandable impulse. You took a big swing and it didn't work out. And I'll give him credit for the big swing. And I also think Sean Payton is going to work out in the long term. I've been vocal about that. But overall, the state of the roster tells me that at least some of the blame has to fall on George Paton. Jared.
I think if I'm going to stick with your analogy here of the swings, I think we have 2 strikes and 3 balls right now on George Paton.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I think we have two strikes. We have a full count on George Paton, and it really depends on, and I bet you George Paton right now is watching us, having a whiskey and going, I swear I really hope Russ plays out. Because that's his job. His job depends on the end of this season and how Russ plays out. If we score 30-something points, 27 points, I'm not doing it, David. If we score 27 points or more in the rest of the games, and it's a little bit more evenly and not just 3 touchdowns in the first quarter and then nothing for the rest of the time, I think that he keeps his job. And I think at least for one more year to see what he could do. Second thing I want to say about this. Owners are one or the other. Our owners seem very interested, and they say all the right things politically about like, hey, we're interested and we want a winning team, we want a winning culture, we know what the background is, all the things that you want to say to the cameras so that we as Broncos country are super happy. So you have 2 types of owners. You have those that are going to say those things to the cameras and be like, okay, I'm going to let this play out. Let's kind of sit back and see how it works out. Or they're going to be the Jerry Jones type, and Jerry Jones is the extreme opposite, right. of the spectrum. And they're going to say, I want control, and I want to tell you how to run these things, and you're either on board or you're not. Right? That's how Jerry Jones plays ball, and we know that. Yeah. I don't think that this ownership group is like that. I don't think that he's going to fire him the first year. I think he's going to say, you need to start telling us what your plans are and what your expectations are and how you're going to meet those expectations. It's all business. He's going to bring them and be like, hey, we expect to draft these types of players from these types of schools, and we want to build this up because we feel like this is where our downfall is. And if he paints the picture for them pretty and in nice colors for officers, Kev, and they love their colors, and he paints them in the nice colors, and they say, okay, cool, he's going to have another year regardless of how this year ends up. But if he doesn't, and Russ doesn't play out, and we end up scoring 16 points for the rest of the season, and we can't get another sack, then yeah, he might be done. But I think we're at a full count, right? It really depends on what this next pitch is.
Yep. All right. Here's where I agree with you. I love the full count analogy. I love it. It's beautiful. And here's where I hate to disagree with you because we've been on the same page basically all night. And I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, we have.
Oh, good. Normalcy. Okay, good. Here we go.
Well, so here's my thing. I think you may be underestimating the conniving nature of Sean Payton, a man who, when he was in New Orleans, was really kind of the de facto GM, or at least had a lot more power over personnel decisions than I think he does with George Paton here in Denver.
Yeah.
And I think
we don't know that yet.
We don't know. But I would say to you, if George Paton does get dismissed at the end of this season, it would probably be to hand more of that power to Sean Payton. And I do agree with you here, Jared. I think this ownership group is definitely the kind where they come from the business world and they say, we give jobs to people who know the thing that they're doing when we don't. Right. So Yep. That's what we do. And they're going to give the football decisions to the football people. But I also think that Sean Payton has really a decent amount of sway with this ownership group. And I think that he may have a lot of influence, especially with the amount they gave up to get him and the amount of money that they are paying him. I know they're all very wealthy people, but to them, that's a considerable chunk of change, and it's more than they're giving George Paton. So nice. That's where I'm kind of coming down on the whole scenario. Maybe Sean Payton just says, look, personnel decisions are going to be my thing from now on.
Yeah.
After this. Kevin, no normalcy here because we agree and we just said it differently.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I agree with you because this ownership group is the one that wanted Payton.
Sean Payton, not George.
Yeah, Sean Payton.
Yeah. Okay.
This ownership group wanted to go out and get Sean Payton. That was their goal, and they said straight up, "We'll throw whatever money because there's no cap on coaches. Like we'll throw all the money on the table to get this guy," and we did. So I would not be surprised if that is the conversation at the end of the year, where it's a closed door between the Walton Group and Sean Payton, going, is he working with you? Is he giving you what you need? And if he's not, we're gonna find someone who will.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Now,
we're all ahead of ourselves, though. I have one. Before I forget it, because I've been drinking and we're about 45 minutes into the show, and I don't want to forget this piece at the end of it. One last thing on the offense.
Go.
Things that people are not talking enough about when you're talking about issues between first half and second half as a coach. There's a couple things. One, your first half, at least your first quarter, is, I'd say, 85% staged, right? And you have a script, right? You have a script of your first 10 plays. You have a script of your first 15 plays. If they don't make adjustments mid-quarter, which the Washington Commanders did not, you stick to that script, and you have the same 25 plays that you stick to, and that happened in the first quarter and a half. Like the first score in the second quarter was early in the second quarter.
Right.
Our third touchdown. So you stick to that script. At halftime, if you have to make adjustments, which you normally do, regardless of if you're winning or not, whether it's to be aggressive or not. I already talked about how I'm a little frustrated that we weren't as aggressive with Sean Payton's play calling, but that might have been. I think, again, complete on me, I think that Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are not on the same page when they're discussing adjustments at halftime. Mm-hmm. And when that discussion's happening, and leadership in general, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a tirade about leadership. In leadership in general, you need to understand the reason why, right? We're in a day and age where everybody needs to know why we're doing a certain thing. If Russ and Sean Payton are not on the same page of why we're adjusting the way we are, there's some confusion on the play call. You have all week to script those 25 plays. And there's the reason why. We're doing this because the corner likes to sneak up, he likes to play press, but he's weak on the release.
And especially because Sean Payton is such a notorious game planner for specific teams. He goes in with those plays, because he's got a fanatic tape study for that team, and he knows with those plays what they're weak against. Go, Jerry. So if he's doing that at halftime, he's thinking, I want to run this play because I've noticed that since we've run those first 25 plays all first half, that this linebacker is sneaking up and playing a step and a half up, which means we can get over the top of him. If he's not explaining that, if he doesn't have Russell Wilson in his office while he's making those adjustments, Russ is not on the same page. He doesn't know why the game plan is being changed, or he's not understanding it at the time. I don't know which one it is, but that is another reason possibly why we're not seeing the same production in the second half as we are in the first. Maybe. Yeah, very viable.
All right. Just in the interest of time, we are getting closer. We're going to transition to a little bit of the pregame talk, and to get more in-depth information and to hear more of our analysis of what to expect for the game, make sure you all check out the pregame podcast. It'll be streamed live here on YouTube. And, of course, if you guys miss it when it's not live, always listen to it as a podcast later on. So make sure you check that out. David and Jared here are going to do a great job breaking down, both the defense players or the Denver Broncos players and Miami Dolphins players, and what it's going to be like. What can we expect? A lot of things that, I have concerned going into this game, guys. And I kind of want to, pass it off over to you here. But look, early time slot, number one on the East Coast, historically. Okay. New head coach. Maybe something different. We'll see, right? Also playing in Miami in September. I don't think we've ever won in September in Miami. And if we have, it's been a very long time. Okay. It's hot. It's humid. It's basically, they get to use their advantage that, I wish we would take more advantage of what we have up here. Like I was talking about earlier. I think Jerry was mentioning it earlier. Dolphins are 2-0. They're looking good. Not great, but they're 2-0. They're going to be at home and taking advantage of that. So I don't know, guys. Like, what do you think? What are you expecting? And what do you hope to see? Jared, what do you think, man?
I was really hoping we had less time to talk about this because I still have to plan for this pregame podcast with David that we're
okay. This is tomorrow. Just generalities.
How do we find something?
We don't want to spill the beans.
Here's what I'll say. This is not the game you want to go in 0-2 on. The Miami Dolphins are for real. They're not the Miami Dolphins from the past 6 years, which we are the same Broncos from the last 6 years. And they're a team that's scary, and they have a good defense. They have electric wide receivers. Tua is finally looking like he's a number one pick. It's going to be this game is going to be very difficult. And if we can't, we've been playing against wide receivers who are okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Raiders had obviously some very good wide receivers, but we're letting wide receivers who are who is that catch big balls over us? And Tyreek Hill is going to run all over us if we cannot figure out a game plan to stop it.
Yeah. Well, I look, not to say like we're getting ahead of ourselves, but Sean Payton even mentioned in the post-game presser, we're going to have much tougher offenses coming down the pike. He recognizes it. He says it. He's thinking about it. There's going to be tougher than Miami. I mean,
Chiefs are still coming.
Chiefs twice, once on a Thursday night in their stadium. You got some work to do, man.
I cannot really understate right now how much I hate this matchup for the Broncos this weekend.
Where we are right now with 0-2 going into this is like the worst possible. Like, I'd probably take the Kansas City Chiefs right now over the Miami Dolphins.
Here's the thing. I would say if you're looking for a glimmer of optimism, I will say this. Bet the over. Because Miami's defense, for all the press that they got this year, has not been that good. And, all right. And Ryan, we'll get to the reasons that you're wrong about this in a minute. And we talked about it actually pretty extensively earlier in the show, but suffice it to say,
$50 million.
This is a take. Yes. Anyway, the Vic Fangio defense has not been above average so far this year. Nobody's bringing Tim Tebow back. The guy couldn't play fullback.
Oh, guys, I got an idea. Russell Wilson for the first half, Tim Tebow for the fourth quarter.
You've lost.
Who's the third quarter?
Does it matter? Does it matter?
You pull Philip Lindsay off of 104.3 The Fan. You get him back in as the emergency quarterback. You get Kendall Hinton back in here, and
get Kendall Hinton in there. Yeah, let's go.
Absolutely. What was I saying? I was saying I hate this matchup for the Broncos and the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel is the stoner wizard that I wish that I was. And congratulations to him, because god damn, that offense looks ridiculous.
I was for the record on Mike McDaniel's hire. I was super like, what the are they doing?
Everyone
I had no clue.
Nobody.
Everyone was like, this guy's like not a player. He's never played football.
The Broncos interviewed him. And it was at that point that everybody should have been like, maybe everybody in the NFL knows something that we don't. But you're totally right, Jared. I had no fucking clue what they were doing.
No clue what they were doing. And you talk to the guy, and he's just like a dude. Like, he's one of us. Just like, he's like drinking and smoking on the sideline. Like, let's fucking go, bro. Yeah. And like, and he's never played football before, for the record. I think in high school maybe, but like never played real football.
Boy. He was a ball boy for the Broncos.
Yeah, and so now all of a sudden it's like it's this is an episode of Ted Lasso. Like, I swear to God, dude, the ball boy took over as the head coach for Miami, and now all of a sudden they're 2-0 and about to come back to their old team that he used to ball boy for.
Redonkulous. And like, if you ever listen to him in a press conference, he's like the most, like, he says the dumbest, coolest,
he's just
most
so
like
cool.
Dumbest, coolest things.
What did you just say?
So much
like, what did you just say? And it just but it makes sense. And then he goes out the next week and he beats Bill Belichick in New England. And you're like, all right,
on prime time,
whatever,
prime time football, like
in prime time, and
with a smirk, with a smirk, just like
and those old man glasses.
I know.
Those
I knew this was
Hunter
gonna
S.
happen.
Thompson old man glasses that you just you want to hate, but he makes them look so good. That's the thing. No, like one guy in 1,000 could pull those glasses off, and he's doing it. We're back to the team. We're back to the team. I hate this matchup on defense for the Broncos. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to run all over this team, just depending on who's not on Patrick Surtain on that given play. And, the only chance that we have is maybe that this defensive line gets to Tua. But, I mean, what do you like? Do you guys really want to put your faith in a pass rush that had one medium week and one terrible week?
They had one good quarter.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I didn't even say half. They had one good quarter. I want to hope that we come out and score big, but then we don't let off the freaking let off the gas. I'd like to come out and I believe Sean Payton can outcoach Mike McDaniels right off the bat. I do believe that. I do like Mike McDaniels, but I think he could outcoach him. And I think that it'll be more of the same. We're going to go up big. Maybe not big, but we're going to go up a little bit, and we'll probably have the lead going into the second quarter.
I'd say.
Going to the second quarter, and then what are we going to do after that? And because Mike McDaniels is also a data guy, that's why everybody hired him. I'm telling you, this is an episode of Ted Lasso. Like, swear to you. Like, he's just a data guy that came off the bench and was like, oh, you know things. And all of a sudden he's a head coach and winning. and now he gets to play against his former ball boy team, and this will be great. I'm not looking forward to this game. Spoiler alert for the pregame podcast, I'm probably going to pick the Broncos to lose.
Agreed. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think the Broncos offense will play well again. But I think you're probably gonna see us outscored in the end, and that's just gonna be the way it is. I love it, Ashley. Hang in there, and Jerry too.
That's basically what I was gonna say.
For the record,
we got this. I think.
Yeah,
I have to say, I think we turned Jerry around from fire Russ and Vance to think positive by the end of this show.
Yeah,
I love that.
Not for nothing. Jerry's the reason. I told you the story, and I'm going to say it again. Jerry's the reason I had to take a shot at halftime last on Sunday. Jerry predicted.
Job,
Jerry, and not for nothing. I'll give it to him. He was the one that predicted that it was be a high scoring game. So for his credit, it was. However, he predicted 40 points for the Broncos. I told him that if we scored more than 20 at half, I would take a shot at halftime hash. We did. I took that shot, unfortunately. And it all kind of went downhill for both my body and the team from there.
So we've got a cautionary tale in listening to Jerry here, I think is what we're really hearing.
Yes,
However, I have to go back to the mat for my guy on Team Puffball and say, A, Team Puffball likes to cause trouble, Jared, and we're not going to apologize for it. B, represent for life. C, thanks so much for coming out again, Jerry, because we love you and we love having you come on the show. Yeah, and your mom is right. Let's have some faith. Let's have some faith. Maybe
that's what I was going to talk about. Look, if I'm taking off my orange goggles right now,
and you are,
yeah, like I totally see it. Like I don't know what the spread is right now. I don't know what the betting line is, but it doesn't look good on paper, right? At the same time, you have a team that lost 2 games at home in a row, 1 point in the first game, 2 points in the second game, dying for a win because you start out 0-2, every game kind of becomes they're already important. There's only 17 games, but now they're exponentially getting more and more important, right? For this part of the season. And so you got a guy like Sean Payton leading the team. Man, if that guy can get these guys fired up, if they can get them on the same page, and if we can find a way to steal a game on the road and go 1-2 and make a statement on the road against Miami, okay, we're going to be talking about some different things, right?
I can promise you this. If they beat Miami on the road, Hype David is back. There'll be no more agreeing with Jared. No more pessimism.
We're back in the season at that point. You're back in the season.
Wait, hold on. No more. Hold on. Agreeing with Jared had nothing to do whether we're winning or losing.
Jared, I'm telling you, it's over. And
I don't understand. We can still agree.
I love you, but if we come out of this game 1-2, and you've got the Bears the week after, oh baby,
yep, we're back.
I'll take it.
We're back in it, and so I imagine that is probably. If I were Sean Payton, and I'm not because I don't, my bank account can prove that to you. The message that I am probably wanting to push more than anything is we are not out of this. Yeah. You know, you may be falling on power rankings. Screw the power rankings. People may be talking about, you know, how disappointment this was and how big of a letdown this has been, probably the biggest in the NFL, right? With Sean Payton coming back. Don't care. No,
Sean Payton's not the letdown, bro.
No. I'm not saying that Sean Payton's the letdown. I'm saying that with Sean Payton coming back, the expectation of the team was so high.
And to be fair,
we didn't expect them to be 0-2.
And Payton set that expectation himself when he said it was going to be a playoff team.
Right, but I'm not saying that. Oh, you know, the Sean Payton's the letdown. It's you know, we didn't want them to. We didn't expect them to be an 0-2 team under Sean Payton.
The news is going to have nothing to do with Sean Payton. It's going to have everything to do with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, one way or the other.
With the amount that we gave up for him, with the amount of everything that's going on, with all the things that he did in Seattle, and then absolutely anything here, like it's all going to be on Russell Wilson, and none of us want that.
No,
we want the story to be like, holy shit, Russell Wilson was a good move, guys. Like, and now we're gonna have him for a couple more years, and we can continue this growth with Sean Payton. But
that's what I'm pushing.
I want to have faith.
That's what I'm pushing.
I want.
That's what I'm pushing. So, like, look, as Broncos fans and realistic fans, look, there's no BS show. I'm going to call it as I see it. Like, this is not looking good, right? But the message is there, and you can get it's not like we're 0-12, right? Where it's like, why does it matter? We can get back into this. We can make a statement game. We can go back out there. It's a week-to-week league. Let's forget about the last 2 weeks. Let's show the league what we can do. We have the players to do. Yeah, we're banged up, but we still have talent, right? So I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. Before we go to some closing thoughts, guys, really quickly, everyone who's watching, Steve, how you doing? Victor, Ashley, crying face there. Jerry, as always, here. You're fantastic, man. Kim, this is Jared's mom. Glad you're here.
Hi, Mom.
Everyone who's watching.
She's also the reason I had to take a shot at halftime.
I love it.
You can't let Mom down.
I approve. Look, whether you're here for the first time or you've been here before, seriously, glad you're here. Welcome to the show. Please make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel below to make sure you're seeing all of our daily content. And again, as I said, beginning of the show, if you want to make sure your comments go through, because half the time on Facebook they don't, or we don't see your name. It just shows up as Facebook user, which is dumb. If you want to avoid that, just go to our YouTube page, watch us there. It helps us out because we're trying to monetize that. But then also your comments will definitely get shown through as well. So definitely check that out. But let's do it, guys. Let's share some closing thoughts. Look, not where we want to be. And if you had told me we would be 0-2, I would have laughed at you. I'd been like, no, we would not be 0-2 to start the season, right? But here we are, and it's not like the team has been blown out of the water both games, right? So what do you think? Here we go to Miami. Jared.
So I'm going to make this two-part. The first part, kind of like the show last game. So the two parts is there's a lot of factors that go into why we suck in the second half and not so much in the first half. And I went on a couple of tangents about it. I don't want to go on them again, but a lot of it has to do with the coaching-player relationship and what they're seeing out there and what they're not seeing and why they're not seeing it. But there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of different things that be coming into it and who's responsible. And we could sit here and try to point blame all we want, but it's really up to the Denver Broncos and that locker room and that coach's office to figure it out. No, I really hope it's probably my fault. I had a great halftime hash. I took a shot. Maybe the tequila was the problem. We figured it out. It was definitely a problem for me. So part two is the second half going into next week's game. Not super optimistic. It's a tough game. I think we're going to be struggling a little bit against a team that's actually rolling and they have a lot of confidence, and we do not. We do not have the confidence. But I want to say this with passion. I really, really want the Denver Broncos to win, and I want them to figure it out. I want them to get it and figure it out and get it together and go into Miami and win that game so that we can get our confidence back. Because if we can win in Miami in an early game, we can roll through the rest of our schedule and we'll have a lot more confidence in possible playoff implications. I hate talking about playoff implications early in the season, but when you're 0-2, you got to. And it starts to matter, and we can't go 0-3. I think the statistics, again, I'm a data guy. Statistics for 0-2 teams, I think it's like 40% or something like that of 0-2 teams, or like 30%, and then it goes down to like 5% of 0-3 teams make the playoffs. And those statistics matter, and it's really hard to dig out from 0-3 to try to make the playoffs, even in a is it 15 team playoff or 16 team playoff?
Yeah. Something like
total?
that.
17. It's an odd number because no, it's an even number.
It's 3 wild cards.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah. Anyway, here is what I have to say about that. And Jared, you're completely right. All right, yeah, okay, yeah. Here's more.
The secret behind getting tears out of the jersey. I know it's complicated, but if you could boil
it
down for us,
right. Club soda and red wine, guys. You mix it together.
Red wine.
Now, I know what you're thinking. The red wine is just going to leave a different stain, but that's why you have the club soda right there. You see, you mix it together to get the tear stains out. Then just club soda for the red wine. Bing, bang, boom. No more stains.
Thanks for sharing, man. I'm going to use that after the show. I'll let you know how it goes.
I got you. Now, everybody's saying, Anthony's saying, hopefully they can compete. Victor is saying 7-point underdogs. The over-under is 47. Here's what I will say. I don't have the confidence that they can right now. I don't know. I don't think the Broncos win this game. Again, spoiler alert for the pregame podcast. I don't think they do. If they do, then just like Jared said, the optimism is all the way back, because not only do you have the Bears coming the next week, then the Zach Wilson Jets come to town the week after. And those are two incredibly winnable games. And you could find yourself being 3-2 in a heartbeat if you end up winning this game. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because, again, I don't know that they are going to win this game, but I do think they're going to be competitive. I don't think that, like Jerry says, it's going to be a 21-13 defensive struggle. Jerry's been calling it more often than we have lately, so maybe he's got it. I think it's probably going to be a lot closer to this Washington game as far as the score. I think it's probably going to be something like 33-35, 37-35, something like that, and I think the Dolphins probably end up squeaking this out. But I do think the Broncos will be competitive on offense. I think they'll go and show out on offense, and I do think that you will at least walk away from this game saying they built on last week's performance again.
Yeah. Love it. Hey, guys, look, there's a lot of good to dig out of an 0-2 Broncos team right now. They are improving. We have a head coach that has performed in the past, under these situations of building a team, right? No, this isn't what we want to talk about. We'd much rather be talking about a 2-0 team. I think that's why everybody's talking about the CU Buffs, because they're much more fun to talk about, right? But we're here. We're still breaking it down for you guys. We're going to be here for you every week, no matter what the Broncos do, win, lose, or tie. Please, guys, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube link that is scrolling across the bottom of the page. If you just search for Bourbon Broncos No BS, that's another way to find us. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. And it's the best way for you to not only get our content, but ensure that your comments are going through and that we're seeing them during the show. Seriously, thanks for all of your comments. You are all the diehards. I get it. This is not fun, to tune into shows and when things aren't going well. So you are the diehard fans, seriously, and we recognize that, and that's why we do these shows.
Guys, we love you guys.
Look, the Broncos are heading to Miami. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. I was there in December several years ago. I don't even want to imagine what it's like playing football in September there, right? But let's see what these guys do, and like David, you said, especially, this is going to be something. Let's see what improvement they put on the field, and talk about that next week. So, guys, we got all that other content, daily shorts for you, other videos for you. We got the tailgate talk 1 hour before kickoff. I'll be here for you with y'all this week, and for the halftime hash show as well. We are the original halftime show. Make sure you check us out before any of the other shows, because we're the most fun too, not just the original.
And I'm gonna give a shout out, Kev. If you guys haven't checked out the most recent short from Kev from the game, it is legit. Like, go check it out. YouTube, TikTok, wherever we're at, YouTube, OnlyFans, whatever we're on. Make sure you're checking out that YouTube short. It's legit. Thanks, Kev.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Now, if you guys want to see what you missed out on at the game, even though we lost, still a great time. I got a bunch of videos, so you guys can check that out. And if you ever do go to a game, let us know. So, hey, and also we're looking for some opportunities to involve you guys by sending us some videos. So watch out for what I post on YouTube, telling you what we're going to be looking for. So, that gives you guys a chance to send us in some video, whether it's a shout out or giving some input, whatever the case is, and we'll showcase you potentially on these live shows as well. Anyway, guys, fun stuff as always. It's not fun to be 0-2, but it's fun to be hanging out with you guys. Seriously, thank you so much. But unless there's anything else from you guys, I only have one thing left to say. And that would be
Go
Broncos.
Take care, guys.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know